coffees today. I had some caffeine water.
What the hell?
It's just sparkling water, and for some reason they add caffeine in there.
You sound like a Frenchman or a fairy.
A caffeine water.
Yeah. Well, hello and welcome everyone to Cause Defect episode 15.
15. Wow. I wonder how many episodes we've actually made by this point.
We've only had to re-record 3 times.
3 times?
Yeah, this is the third one.
Okay. The first one, we started off rocky, and so it's bound to happen. It's bound to happen.
Technical difficulties, things happen when you're a dumbass.
You think we recorded that whole last episode off the computer speakers?
Probably.
Like microphones?
That's what it sounded like. It sounded awful, but it was loud though, so I don't know what.
Maybe it's a
on.
decent speaker. I mean, should be for a really expensive computer, but
let me check to make sure that our levels are right, just to be safe. Here.
However, it seems like we're going well so far.
It looks fine.
It looks fine.
Yeah, we're good. We're good. All right. Well, today, guys, we're going to talk about the moon landing.
Yes. And at first, I really thought it was just like, the moon landing. Like, hey, we went to the moon. That was it, really. But this is more or less the myths of the moon landing hoax and how people tried to explain it to be a big conspiracy.
Yeah. It seems like one of those things that because you don't understand it, and then you see a couple of things that don't make sense in your head, immediately you go to assume that it was fake.
Yep, it's more fun that way.
Yeah, I guess so.
I mean,
it's entertaining.
I guess so. To me, it should be entertaining enough that we just went to the damn moon. Like, that's already really impressive.
Yeah, really.
That big thing in the sky you see at night, we've been there.
Mm-hmm. Now, the moon doesn't even exist, according to flat Earth people.
It's all,
some flat Earth people.
It's all a dome over the Earth.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And the moon, one of their arguments, believe it or not, is that the moon, the moon produces its own light. Is there...
Oh, wow. How would they do that?
I don't know.
Where's the energy?
They don't know either. Heavenly energy, I assume.
So some of it comes from some heavenly energy, and then some of them say it's not even real.
Like, I don't know. They don't...
Sounds too much like religion.
Let's just not...
Just pick and choose what you want.
We had a nice hour-long episode where we just bashed Flat Earth.
Yeah, check out the Flat Earth video if you haven't seen it. Check out ours and other people's. They're hilarious to listen to, I think. So anyways. So want to start off by saying if you like listening to Cause and Defect, us two astute gentlemen, feel free to like and subscribe, leave us comments, all that kind of fun stuff. We appreciate it. If not, if
you don't want to, then don't. I guess.
We'll keep trekking forward either way.
That's right.
Support's always nice, but thankfully for us, we're not looking for validation. We're just looking to do what we think is best, at least.
And hope that we
tell
can.
Ourselves.
Yeah, I hope that we can just spark some thought. That's really the main goal for this thing, is to just spark people to, like, whether or not it's them hearing us and then disagreeing with us profoundly, or they hear us and go, wow, I've never thought of it that way before. Either way, I just want people to start thinking for themselves more often. Yeah,
someone commented on one of our Instagram things and was like, I've never heard someone put it this way before. And, I don't know if he was just scamming or bullshitting, but he was like, that was really funny and interesting, blah, 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 blah.
Well,
I was like,
didn't see that.
So never comment on our page again. I'm just kidding.
We don't want nice things. We want smart asses.
That was cool, though, because I imagine whoever that was probably didn't see, like, our first episode and things where we go into just describe what we're trying to do here. And for someone to say what we've been trying to do was really cool, I thought. Boop. I wouldn't even have noticed. Well, that fan feels nice, but it gets so hot in here with those. Anyways, I thought that was cool. So feel free, again, to like and subscribe and talk to us if you want. We will go back, even if it's on an episode that we came out with, a month or two ago. Feel free to write something in, and we'll respond to you.
That's right. But today we're gonna start with a section or a segment of Q&A, and then we will end with Super Fight, which is our favorite argument of who would win theoretical fights.
Yeah,
it's our favorite little game.
It is pretty hilarious. So I'm gonna start off with the question I've already asked you before, but I want you to explain to the people, even though I'd like to hear their guesses themselves. However, did you get a haircut?
Yes, I did.
Looks good.
Thank you.
Did your mom do it?
Brittany.
So yeah. Okay. What celebrity do people say you look like?
Henry Cavill is what I get the most, or what I have gotten the most. The guy from Smallville is another one that I've gotten.
I thought you said that was the same guy.
They're not the same guy.
Oh.
They both have played Superman.
But
they're not the same guy.
Gotcha. But pretty much the same.
What about you? You wait, Orlando Bloom.
Orlando Bloom.
Which makes no sense.
I don't get it either. I think it's hilarious. It's something I've never thought of myself, and I think the people that know me go, yeah, you don't look anything. But for some reason, a lot of strangers, that's like one of the first things they say.
If they knew you, they wouldn't.
They wouldn't disgrace Orlando Bloom like that.
Orlando Bloom with a few extra chromosomes.
Yeah, I don't get it, but that's what I get. So there you go.
All right, what's your biggest fear?
My biggest fear. Well, I'll do two answers again. My first one today, I'm afraid of snakes. I ran into a snake today, and every single time it's always like that. Like, you bitch. I think it's just because you don't see them. Like any other animal, you walk up to it and you see it from a distance, but those are just slither right under your feet, and they scare the fuck out of me.
Yeah.
But my real answer, if I wanted to be quoted on this long after I lived, it would be to not do anything for the progression of society before I died. Just suck up a bunch of resources, get real fat and hateful to everyone, and then just die off.
Man, that sounds like a lot of people's dream.
With no meaning. I mean, I can't blame people for that, but I would say, and I don't think everyone's meant to have that sort of, change humanity as they go through life. But if you are in the position, you have some sort of resources to do so, then I think you should. That being said, I think I have that position to help at least a little bit, or just throw some stuff out there. It'd be much more of a waste if I sat and did nothing, at least for myself. So that would be a fear of mine.
I feel the same way.
Yeah.
Maybe not my biggest fear, but...
What's your biggest fear?
Other than, like, spiders or heights, I would say that my biggest fear is to not know who I am anymore. Like, get to the point with either dementia or Alzheimer's where I'm just useless and I don't even know that I'm useless. I guess ignorance is bliss. Sure. But at the same time, looking at it right now, I see those kind of people. My grandma had Alzheimer's. I've been close to that. And I guess that's just made me kind of really, really not want that.
Yeah, I can understand that. And for like her position, she doesn't know. Yeah. It's just not like she's like, oh, I forget stuff all the time. Right. She's just kind of in her own world. But obviously to the normal minded people, it's sad to watch. Yeah. So really. I can see that.
Back in the day, they would probably think you were possessed.
Yeah, some witchery.
And go ahead and burn
wizardry.
You at the stake.
Yeah. All right. Next question. When is the last time you audibly cried? This isn't like a tear or a little sob. This is like yelling out, crying.
Well, shit. I mean, yelling out, crying, like, ah! I've never done that. Unless I was a child, like a small child when I did that.
I don't know, yeah.
Audibly cried though was actually, honestly, if I'm being totally honest, it was pretty recently because of this whole shit that's going on.
Right. COVID.
Yeah, that's it. I'm not gonna divulge my personal life to the entire world, but
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
But that's interesting because I cannot remember for myself. I feel like there's something like deep inside me that's like, you probably should just cry once in a while to like purge it out of your system. But I'm like, 10 years strong.
It'll come out at some point.
Yeah, it'll come out like somebody like killed everyone in my family at once over something small. I feel like that's what's going to happen. Like one little thing's going to trigger me and it's just going to come flooding out. But at least for now, it's been a very,
like
very
Bill
long
Burr
time.
Just put it into a ball and shove it deep down.
Deep down.
Yeah. Generally, I just don't have like that crying trigger. As of late is the only couple of times that's happened, but yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yep. All right. Would you foster 5 children?
No.
For $100,000 a year?
No.
Extra?
No.
No? What about $1 million?
Like what age children are we talking about here?
I don't fucking know. A smorgasbord between 5 and 18.
For $1 million, yeah, for sure.
$1 million a year.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Where do you draw the line? Not at $100,000.
$100,000 is
doesn't seem like enough,
especially not for 5 children and myself. Where would I draw the line? Probably like 200, 300,000, somewhere in there.
Man,
a year.
I was watching the new Netflix show Space Force last night.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet.
And John Malkovich is in that. Do you know who that is? He's a really famous actor. You'd probably recognize him.
Yeah, the names.
Anyways, they were talking about money a little bit because the military just throws money at problems or whatever, and they kind of put their budget into a funny perspective. Basically, he said John Malkovich was talking about how much money they spent on this one rocket. It was a $6 billion rocket, I think, and he said that it would take one person earning $50,000 a year, 120,000 years or something like that to
pay for that.
Yeah,
that's insane.
So it's like 1 year of 120,000 people,
all their salaries and pay going towards that. That's insane.
$50,000 a year for one rocket.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it kind of. I mean, I know those numbers probably aren't exactly accurate, but it just puts things into perspective when you look at the budget of our country, especially the military. You think about how much money they spend.
How much is actually spent on the military every year.
And actual Americans like you and I are paying for that shit.
Well, what's crazy, though, is like NASA, well, they can't really build their own stuff now, but they have like, I can't remember the exact, but a very, very small percentage of the national budget. Like they said, if it was like the dollar bill, like if you had like a normal dollar bill and that was the whole budget of the US, like that little white strip like right on the outside of a dollar bill before it meets the green border is like one little bit would be how much NASA gets a year.
All around the whole border though?
No, just like one little sliver, I think.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they don't get very much of any. Like it's like a 0.3% or something like that.
That's funny.
I can't remember.
I mean, that's still a lot of money if you consider the GDP.
Yeah, it is, America. But I mean, with technology like that, it kind of has to be. And the rest of it goes to like ammunition and tanks and shit, whatever kind of shit they do out there.
Right.
So my go? Me?
Yep.
Me's? If you could leave Earth to travel to a distant solar system or planet, but to basically never come back, because by the time you made it back, Earth would be very different, would you do it? With no promise of ever finding anything.
With no promise of ever finding another planet?
Well, maybe another planet, but no like life or anything like that. I mean, it could be,
no.
But I'm just saying. Would you just take
that's like asking me if I would do that Interstellar.
Pretty much, yeah.
No. No, thanks. If I knew that the world I was going to had some sort of life on it and we had already established a colony or something, then maybe.
Okay.
But like in an Avatar situation. But if you're talking, I'm just going into deep space, probing for other Earth-like planets. Nah, I wouldn't do that. I would probably go insane.
Yeah. Well, if you're with, true. If you're with a lot of people, I guess, not a lot of people, even like a crew of people, a bunch of books.
I don't know, man.
Stuck in a little area.
I mean, I think what put it into perspective for me is seeing. It showed a camera angle of the Earth spinning, but they had gravity and they were just sitting still and the Earth was spinning. Like if you look at something from your position of relative motion and you feel still but see something else moving like that, but you know that you're the one tumbling,
right? That
would fuck with me a lot. I would have to not look at outside,
right? Because you wouldn't because it wouldn't feel like anything.
Yeah, I would probably puke. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure it would. There'd be a lot of training that went into this because there's I know those astronauts like, oh, speaking of that, did they launch today? It was supposed to be at 3:30 and I didn't watch it.
Crinkle up your notes, you fucking psychopath.
I'm upset.
Jeez. Relax.
I'm upset.
Calm down.
This was a big thing. I missed it.
All right, my turn.
I'm about to do that audibly crying thing.
How would you greet Donald Trump if you met him?
If I like got introduced, like, hey, Brennan, this is Donald, and it was like a thing, I would just, I guess, shake his hand for the formality of it and say, how's it going? I wouldn't care to like talk to him about anything. And if we just like pass by each other, I wouldn't even say anything.
I wonder how long you would go to jail for punching the president.
Longer than it was worth it.
Like acting like you're gonna. I don't know, man. I would feel really good.
Yeah, not after 15 years in prison.
True.
Of,
getting butt raped for.
Yeah, I mean, you might be a star in there. A lot of people might want to punch the president, so they might be. But there'd probably be some guys in there with like their MAGA hats on or something. You don't punch my president, son.
Hell yeah,
they shanked to death or something.
He grown my jail gang. I've got more people in here to.
I got more of my family in
That's
here.
That's right. Hell yeah.
No, I don't think I would say anything at all, though. I would just walk right past. I think that would be more of an insult because he's got such an overinflated ego. He would like expect people to like, exist. To like stop and take pictures, and I'll just walk right by him and not even look at him. Like, no, thank you, sir.
Or you could just act like nothing's going on, take one quick look at him, be like, "What's up, bitch?" and keep walking.
Spit at his feet.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably still go to jail for that. Is it mine go or your go?
Your go.
Oh. Do you believe in reincarnation? Whether it's like a soul or an energy, or you don't have to come back as like a mouse or some shit.
I don't think it's that straightforward, but in a way, yeah.
Okay.
Because energy is recycled. So with that being said, consciousness is probably recycled in some fashion. Maybe not as black and white as I'm going to be a mouse next life. It's like your consciousness is spread out to other things. That's how I would see it if it were a thing. Yeah. But I don't necessarily believe in that I can be an eagle in my next life, or I'm going to come back as a king, or I don't know about that.
I was going to say I don't know if I'd want to come back as an animal or a person. If I could come back as like a loved house like retriever, a golden retriever, just got to go to a family that took care of me and loved on me all day, and I got to run outside.
You'd be a happy boy.
Yeah, I'd be cool with that. I can deal with that. All right, go ahead.
Okay.
Peckeran.
Would you rather have hair all over your body permanently, or go on a cross-country road trip with a family of homeless, incestual cannibals?
Neither of those I like.
Well, that's kind of the point.
I don't like hair, and even though I have lots of it on my head at least, and I don't like homeless people.
I know that.
So I'm gonna ask the question. I'm gonna go with hair.
Okay.
Yeah, I would rather have hair. I would not want to be in a car with those
all
people,
over your body.
Man.
You'd just be a human carpet.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, rather than ride with those stink bugs.
Be careful, you might start a fire. All that friction between them thighs.
They'll try to. They'll try to eat me on the way too. No, yeah. How about you?
I'd probably do the road trip.
You would come out smelling like them.
I know, but a couple showers should be all right.
A couple showers. A good kerosene wash.
Yeah, right. Kerosene.
All right, here we go. If you had a stepdad, what would you call him?
Probably just Jim, regardless of what his name is.
Right.
What's up, Jim?
Or Gary. Yeah. I feel like that's a good stepdad name.
Go fuck yourself, Gary.
Gary. It's my stepdad, Gary.
Or Derek.
Ugh.
Hey, Derek.
Yeah.
Spreckensy
Dick.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
What about you? Have a name?
Hey, you.
Dick Job?
Yeah. It would be more fun for me just to make up a different name every time I talk to him. Just like I always do anyways.
Right.
Terry Pencil Swallow.
Not bad. That's okay.
That wasn't too bad.
All right. Would you rather, for the rest of your life, listen to heavy metal, only that genre, or Lenny Kravitz?
Heavy metal. Yeah, very easy for me.
I want to get away.
Yeah, I don't know that many Lenny Kravitz songs, nor do I care to. And heavy metal that's like a ton of different bands. Sure. I could mix it up forever,
I guess.
So that's my answer. How about you, Mr. Kravitz?
Heavy metal, for sure. Definitely heavy metal.
Yeah, that was an easy one.
All right.
So, on to the topic of the day.
That's right. We are going to talk about the moon landing, just the general kind of awesome feat that it is we're going to talk about, and then talk about why people think it was a hoax or a conspiracy. We didn't actually go to the moon to win the space race, blah, 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 blah.
So everyone should know. If you don't, this is just a brief history lesson. It's a real easy one. And I wish I could remember the date, but I don't. In 1969 is when Apollo 11, there had been 10 before, but 69, Apollo 11 is the one that landed on the moon. with Neil Armstrong,
Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins.
There you go. And only 2, Buzz Aldrin and Neil, actually walked on the moon.
That's right.
Yeah, the other guy was just, he was in doomsday.
That's right. He was sitting in the capsule, floating on the backside of the moon.
Just checking things out.
Chilling out, dude.
Just chilling
Probably
out.
Smoking a doobie.
Yeah.
Relaxing.
In the space shuttle.
Yeah, right. But there are so many things that have to go into sending a mission to the moon. It's not as simple as you just go straight at this thing.
Yeah.
That thing is moving.
Yeah.
It's like hitting a bullet with another bullet, you know.
And not only that, it's like just getting through our weather systems and whatever clouds or wind may be high up in the air. Then you have to go through, you know, parts into low orbit where there's satellites and there's thousands of things rotating around the Earth at once. So you have to do it perfect where we can get shuttles out of that area where things are orbiting and not run into little screws or bolts going 18,000 miles per hour around the Earth that could just slam into the ship and kill everybody.
Right.
Like little things like that. That's why NASA has to have trackers on everything so we can send shuttles into space. It's not just like some arbitrary, like, oh, today looks good, everybody strap in and we'll send you up.
Right.
You know, this is like planned out a long time in advance.
Mm-hmm. And they didn't even think they were going to be able to get to the moon for a long time. Even like they planned the mission and it took them like 5 years to get it going. I don't remember exactly what it is, but there's a point where they just didn't think they were going to be able to do it, which is another reason why.
For the technology or?
Yeah. I mean, there were so many things that they had to figure out in such a small window of time.
Yeah.
That they didn't think they were going to be able to do it in time. And maybe I believe that in the minds of the engineers, or at least some of them, they thought they may not ever be able to do it for a multitude of reasons. There's a lot of shit that goes into it.
So that's the point of anything that is great or grand, right? Is it seems impossible, and then you just start working at it piece by piece, and then it all kind of comes together, and you make it. If it was something that we were like, yeah, I guess we can do it. Let's just throw it together in a couple years. Like, yeah, it's cool, but it doesn't make it like the extreme feat that what it is, the moon landing actually is to us.
Right.
I think that's what makes it even better.
Mm-hmm.
People, it's not like just some random company. I say that even SpaceX is doing it, but they're not going to the moon. But still, that's a collaboration, of the government and all kinds of stuff. It's not like, some place down the street can build a rocket and shoot it into space and it, works fine. That's something incredibly difficult to do.
Mm-hmm. Takes a huge amount of funding and research and time. So it's not something that just everybody can do. It's going to take that one specialized group of people, and with that's going to come conspiracies because not a lot of people outside of that group know how it's done.
Yeah, yeah, right. And if you don't know how it's done, you just make up a story. Right. And you make it whatever you want it to make.
It was done on a movie set.
Yeah, exactly.
I understand that.
The only thing that it could be, in 1969, there's no way they had the equipment enough to fake this sort of thing.
They really didn't. I watched a video of a guy who was very experienced in the film industry for like 30 plus years, and he was basically watching the moon landing and debunking why people think it was faked. Basically, he came to the conclusion that there's no way it could have been done with the technology they had in that time. For all the different things they needed to do, they would have had to have high frame rate cameras to make things look slow motion. They just didn't have those.
Right.
They didn't have good enough of a movie set to make it look like it was just the sun lighting it. Mm-hmm. So there are some photos. I think one of the biggest. I mean, there are a lot of different things that make people think that it was a conspiracy, but one of the ones in particular is the angle of the shadows, and that's one of the biggest things that he examined. Is it's all about perspective. So if the topography of the ground that you're looking at is kind of odd and going in a bunch of different angles, then the shadows aren't going to exactly be straight like they would from a single light source that's really far away. Yeah. So there are some photos and pieces of the video where it looks like shadows are diverging, and that's why there are other shadows that are parallel as well. Right. But basically the entire backdrop and everything was all lit up, and if it was on a movie set, there would be some sort of drop off of the light. You would notice that there was other light sources.
Gotcha.
So you would see a border of some sort.
It's kind of weird. I saw this may have been today. I was just flicking through social media, and I saw a picture, and like if you looked at the wall, it just looked like a bunch of rocks like put up on the wall. They were all different shapes and sizes and kind of scattered out. Didn't look like any sort of pattern at all. And then they shined a light from like one side of it, and the reflection or the shadows that came off made like a perfect face on the other side of it. Yeah, it looked like the imprint of a face. So it could be something as simple as that.
Yeah,
or that's what it just reminded me of when you were saying that.
Perspective does so much to change your view of things, man. Like I know you've probably seen some of the works of art that I see them on Instagram and I guess on some videos on YouTube of it's like a bunch of scrap that they hang, and from one angle it looks like a picture, and you go to the side and it's just a bunch of shit.
Yeah, and they even do it like both ways now, where you're looking at it dead on, it says something, then you move to the side of it and it says something else.
That's amazing.
That takes some time and
dedication, really.
So to get started, do you think there's a very small possibility, because I know your real answer, that it was fake?
Yeah, I mean, like, there are compelling arguments, and they have reason and motive, I guess.
So what would those be?
I would say if they have a valid motive, it would be for the U.S. to beat the Soviet Union in the space race. And that's one thing that gets debunked very quickly, though. As soon as I say this, I think of this, is that Russia basically watched the moon landing happen, and they recognized that it happened. Them, alongside other countries, picked up the transmissions from the moon as it was going on. It's not like they picked it up from NASA. They got the transmissions from the moon. It's not like
they're having to take NASA's word for it.
Right. So Russia acknowledged that the United States went there. So, I mean, that if you think that we did that to beat Russia in the space race, then that probably gets eliminated immediately now that I say it.
Right. All right. And I think some of that goes to, well, first of all, at that time, people wouldn't have actively known that Russia knew, right? We didn't get a lot of news from there, I'm sure, in the early 70s. It's not like we had the internet or anything like that where people could just go research whatever. So, and at that time, also, there was a lot of distrust in our own government. I think Watergate was around that time. There was a few other scandals going on. I can't remember what they were. Yeah, Vietnam was. I think I may have written some down. No, I didn't. But I think people were just kind of in a weird situation with the government anyways, and thinking that they were making a lot of sketchy, weird calls. And then it was just kind of fell in line that, we were up against this race with Russia. They had made the first rockets. They had put the first person in space. They put the first thing in orbit, all that. And then we just happened to come out of nowhere. I wouldn't say nowhere, but we turned up the juice then, and we're all of a sudden okay, well, we're going to beat them to the moon. And then we did, according to the information we have now.
That's right. And I still think that there's a small possibility that it may have been a global cover-up for some reason that I can't foresee.
Yeah. If that were the case, you would think that, I think it meant a lot to Americans at the time. It was we accomplished this. This is our great nation. Our government does make good calls. It makes us look good, blah, blah, blah. I can see that. But if other countries are involved, I don't see what it would do for them and their people, especially the Russians, who were already at some sort of distaste with us, I guess, for the fall of the Soviet Union and all that. And then all of a sudden they're going to pat us on the back and be like, yo, we'll help you cover up this.
Well, maybe that's what that's what the public sees, right? So if it was some sort of global cover up, there would be people in the background or whatever handling the actual business together. And then maybe they benefit in some small way that's not seen by the public, and maybe the public doesn't even benefit from it. I'm treading on thin ice here. I'm trying to play devil's advocate of some sort, but I know that it's, after watching all of the videos that I've watched, I don't see
when it all comes down to right. It doesn't make sense why it would have been fake.
There are so many things that they would have had to do. They would have had to have some sort of filmmaking technology that was way outside of their time. And if they had that kind of tech to make the film, they would have had the tech to go to the moon, pretty much.
Yeah, and I was gonna say not only that, but how would they have kept it a secret from? How would they have swayed where would we have gotten all the materials from for blueprints and all the people working on it and all that kind of stuff?
That's another big thing is all the engineers that worked on it. They weren't just working on nothing, and there are pages and pages of blueprints. Yeah. We watched the shuttle go into space.
Yeah, exactly.
At a certain point, it becomes so much more of a hassle unless going to the moon literally is impossible, which...
And then there's no way they could just go to the public and say, no, by the way, this is impossible.
Right.
We can't, at least for right now, we can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that wouldn't have worked. I'm trying not to get too deep with this, but it really comes down to, I don't think it would be impossible unless there's something about space that it was discovered that they didn't like, things seemed a lot closer, but then when you got out there was some stretch in time and space or whatever, and you can never actually get there. Something like that, maybe. But if it's within the laws of physics, all we lack is the engineering to get there, right? And I think if it was something where they were like, okay, guys, it seems impossible, but nothing about the physical laws of nature, don't allow us to go. They would have figured it out eventually.
I think so.
So I find it tougher for them to say, it was impossible. Let's just fake it.
Well, another thing that people bring up is the Van Allen belts around
the radiation.
Yeah, the electromagnetic radiation that's really strong.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I saw online, which this may be inaccurate, it would have taken them about 4 hours to get through the Van Allen belt, and it apparently would take days of exposure to cause serious problems. And they had a ship equipped to minimize their radiation exposure.
Right. It has a controlled environment on the inside. I'm sure it has some like panels on it to reflect a lot of light and radiation off of it. I'm spitballing at this point, but that's something that's something they thought of. And explain shortly, I guess, what the Van Allen or whatever they're called.
It's just Earth's electromagnetic field, pretty much.
But it's radiation, right?
Yeah. I mean, as far as I know, that's what it is. I think it has something to do with our magnetosphere, which is a really high concentration of magnetic energy coming from the Earth. And there's some sort of magnetic flux there. So I'm pretty sure that's what the Van Allen belt is.
Okay.
It may have something to do with the sun, like the sun's radiation clashing with our planet.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe it collects in those areas.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm obviously not an expert.
Right.
So.
I didn't know if you had that.
I saw something about it and forgot.
Yeah, there was too many. I did see that too, and I don't know enough about it to speculate on it, but just as far as all the people that had to work on this, and not only like the blueprints and stuff that they had, but like you can find all the fuel, like again, people watched it on TV and in person go into space. And what would they just wait for nighttime and then drop it back down somewhere and hide it? Yeah. There was too much that happened there for it to be some shit.
Another thing for me is we had 6 manned missions to the moon. Mm-hmm. Why would you fake 6 if you were just trying to get there and not really accomplish anything other than getting there, and you faked it? Why would you put yourself at risk by faking it 5 more times?
Yeah, right. You did well enough the first time. Just let it go.
Right. We made it there. Don't question us anymore. Bye. That would be a little more suspicious.
Well,
if they went there once.
Why is that not as popular? I feel like people don't know as much about the other missions. I mean, I know the first one's like the first one we got there was a big deal, blah, blah, blah. But I think people think it just stopped there. And obviously we haven't done a lot on U.S. soil. Like we haven't sent any manned missions since 2011, I think. Where was I going with that?
Manned missions where?
We haven't sent manned missions, from U.S. soil.
Yeah, I was going to say, nobody's even attempted to go to the moon since the 70s.
I know, and I think that's what another reason people dig into the conspiracy is we went this one time, made it, and then we never tried again.
Why don't you go again and prove it? Yeah. That's the same thing with people with flat Earth. They're like, why don't you turn the Hubble telescope around and take a picture of the planet? They're not going to turn the Hubble telescope around, which would take some serious effort.
Yeah,
they're not going to turn that around just to prove to these dumbasses that the Earth isn't fucking flat. Right. Yeah, it's not worth their time.
I'm sure they have way more important things to do. The Hubble telescope has brought in so much information and data from space, and the last thing I'm sure they care about is proving a group of a couple 100,000 people max about some stupid theory they came up with.
Especially when it can be disproven without having a picture of it.
Right. And you have pictures from all kinds of, like, doesn't the International Space Station have constant footage? And
well, yeah, but pretty much I think that every complete photo of the Earth is somehow digitally rendered in some way. But then again, I'm not an expert on that.
I don't know that either. I mean, to a degree, I would imagine it would have to be just for it to look nice, especially if it's going to be a picture that like NASA puts up on their website, especially the ones that come from like satellites of like distant planets. It's taking images in all kinds of different light spectrums, from like ultraviolet to, whatever else, and it makes like a bunch of different colors come together to make a pretty picture. If not, it would just look a black ball out in space, like a dark icy ball out in space,
right?
And it wouldn't look cool. Nobody would want to see it. So all of them are rendered a little bit.
Yeah, give them some color, capture the imaginations of the people.
Exactly. It's got to be interesting, but it doesn't have to be so interesting enough for people to just make the shit up. What do all these research scientists do with all their time if they're just making shit up?
Right.
That doesn't make any sense. There's way too many people to pay off and to keep a secret, and
a lot of those people, a lot of the people that question the moon landing and question the flat Earth is like, we do all of these space missions, all of our geophysics and that kind of stuff. They're not doing it based on a flat Earth. They're doing it based on the data that would come from having a round Earth model, and we're having the spin, the Coriolis effect, all that kind of shit. So they're doing the maths for these missions and these problems with the Earth being round in mind.
Yeah.
And it just magically works,
right?
And how could they be doing that? Yeah. And they believe, because the point I'm getting at is that what I hear people say is, I'm sure the scientists think that they're doing the right math and stuff. Like, what?
That is like the most egotistical thing ever. Like, I'm sure they think they're doing a good job, little buddies.
But I know different because right. I'm an expert.
I have a YouTube channel with 10,000 followers. Yeah. I know best.
Right. Like these photos of the Earth look fucking ridiculous. It is not round. Okay, it's obviously flat. They made there was a flat Earth joke in that Space Force.
Nice.
That show is kind of funny. You should watch it. It's quirky in its own way. It's got some serious moments because Space Force is obviously a real fucking thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's good. Steve Carell and John.
Yeah, Malkovich. I saw like the title of it or whatever. I didn't click on it or anything, but I like Steve Carell. I mean, Space Force is a real thing. I mean, but it's always been kind of a real thing because the Air Force is over space.
Yeah, but now it's becoming separate.
I don't think it's becoming separate. I think it's just becoming a more like dignified department of it, and maybe it's branching off. But it's just like the Air Force wasn't a thing at first, and then we started getting planes in the sky.
Like with the Navy
and we developed an Air Force, and then they broke off into their own branch, and the same with space. Now we're in space more, so the Air Force was over space, and now we have a designated department for it, and that'll be the Space Force. It's not like anything's going to change. It's still the military. It's still the same people running the show. Mm-hmm. It just has its own department name now. I mean,
so I think funny name.
Yeah, it is funny, and people I feel like people got so bent out of shape. I mean, I think that's just the American media mindset all around, is when something new or crazy happens, people just love to make the biggest deal about it, and it seemed it gives them
sensationalist.
Yeah, exactly. It gives them something to talk about for a week or two.
Let's give them something to talk about. Sorry.
And then, 2 weeks later, then that fades out and something else happens. Now we'll talk about this. Like, look how many things have already happened in 2020 that, we're just jumping from one topic to the next. It's like one thing to the next, one big event to the next. And it's almost like we're just kind of being fed this to be entertained,
right?
And people are okay with it. Yeah, they don't want to look around it. Yeah, but I mean, when it's coming from all your major news and media cycles or sites or companies, everyone's seeing the same thing, and we create sensational. That's the best way to put it. Mm-hmm. And it sucks.
It does suck. It's annoying. I just feel like people, a lot of the times, the majority of people are focused on the wrong thing because. Like, shit happens. It's like distractions. Mm-hmm. It feels a lot of it feels super manufactured.
Because there's never it seems like there's never an extended period of just like calm and I don't want to say like relaxation, but if there's always some big problem going on, and then it's so exposed on the media now, I guess maybe that has a lot to do with it, that it always feels like there's a problem going on 24/7.
Negative news sells, man. Fear is like is a huge thing to manufacture. It always has been. I mean, that's what has caused us to go to war and that kind of stuff.
This gives light to the simulation theory, I think. You know, some guy, some kid in his basement right now is like, this isn't enough. Let me throw this in here real quick. let me throw some fires that burn half of a country in real quick, and we'll see how that starts off the year.
Oh yeah.
And then we'll do some other crazy shit.
Before we get too far off topic, I want to cover at least we're probably not going to cover all of the problems that conspiracy theorists point out with
all the biggest myths. I mean, yeah, we can hit a few of the big ones, but if you really want to get down into the conversation, then do some looking it up, because people are gonna. It's just like the flat Earth theory. It's gonna keep developing because people they just want to have it. No matter what you tell them, they have like this sort of like cognitive dissonance where they just double down on their own ideas.
Yeah, and they're professional, seasoned cherry pickers. It's tough to beat.
Yeah, it's funny.
But I wanted to talk about the flag waving, because that's one of the most famous things, is that the flag was waving in the picture. But if you notice, if you go back and watch it, they starched the flag with a pole, like a 90-degree pole
across the top,
because with no gravity, the flag would just sit there like a limp dick.
Yeah.
And people want their American flag erect and proud.
That's right.
And they want that bitch to be flapping in the wind.
If NASA thought of how to get to the moon, you don't think they would have solved that simple problem?
Right.
Like, here, take this flag and throw it up somewhere. Well, how the fuck is it going to stay there?
You can see Armstrong moving the flag. Like, they created that ripple effect on purpose. Mm-hmm. It's not, there was no wind on the moon.
Right.
That's just one of the, you just got to look a little bit beyond the surface value. If you take things for surface value, if you hear somebody say, oh, the flag was waving, there's no wind on the moon, without looking further into it, you might be like, wow, that's questionable.
Yeah, you know, somebody should look into that.
Right. Mm-hmm. But
a lot of people have.
You can look into it.
Yeah, a lot of people have looked into it.
It's a simple answer to that.
Yeah. And you can see it. I was watching a lot of the videos today, and the top is perfectly perpendicular to the pole of the thing.
That's right.
Like, and if no flag is just gonna stand like that. So you can very much see, and then you see his hands on it, and the things are kind of moving. Then he takes his hand off, and it just stays there.
Yeah.
And I think that's definitely one of the biggest things. And the flag is not flapping in space. And what kind of fucking dumbasses, if it was on a movie set, would go, let's get some wind in here to blow the flag.
Get your hair out and make it all dramatic. Like, whip that back and forth.
Right.
Did they have modeling for all the world?
Right. They didn't have any like astrophysicists in there or anybody to like say, hey, that's dumb. Don't do that.
Right.
You know, I mean, if they're putting out a movie with Sandra Bullock and her hair looks perfect in space, well, no one's trying to prove that that's real. Like, obviously they didn't care enough that her hair would have been everywhere. Like, it was fine. It just looked good for the movie.
Right.
If they're faking a moon landing, they're not doing it to make it look like a cool movie.
Right.
They would make it as realistic as possible.
Mm-hmm. And that brings me to another thing, is that one of the biggest things that I saw in the several videos that I watched is that there's a picture, it's a famous picture of Buzz Aldrin, and you can watch the video and see the same kind of effect. He's in a shadow. He's in the shadow of the vehicle, of the lander that brought him down, and he looks illuminated.
Yeah.
So that's like a thing why people say, oh, there had to be extra lights because he looks way too illuminated.
Right. So he's on, like, just to explain it a little bit. So like the ship is, the lander or whatever is here, and the sun's coming from one direction, and he's either crawling in or out of it on the opposite side where the shadow is cast from the lander itself. So him being in that shadow, you'd think he would be dark and you wouldn't be able to see him very well.
Right. And that would be, I mean, if they were faking the moon landing and trying to do so convincingly, you would think that they would consider the lighting as well. I mean, lighting is one of the most important parts of film.
They wouldn't just have lights everywhere.
Right. I wouldn't think so. But that's a problem that's very well explained. And I would encourage you to look up a video of a company called NVIDIA that make games and gaming systems. not gaming systems. They make like graphics cards and stuff.
Gotcha.
So they're a visual company, and they made a video of them recreating the moon landing site and trying to recreate the lighting to solve the problem of this picture that I'm talking about. So it took them a long time because they had to think of all of these different factors and make it look like a realistic lighting scene. And they took into account the reflectivity of the moon's surface, which is going to be the biggest thing, the reflectivity off of the lander itself. And even with all of the reflections that they added into their simulation, they couldn't get it exactly right. And then they realized that there was another light source right behind Buzz Aldrin that they didn't consider, and that was Neil Armstrong himself in the astronaut suit, which is made of Teflon, and it is completely white. So it is a really highly reflective suit for a reason. I mean, for his safety.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Right. So that was like, as soon as they illuminated his suit to what it would have been, the lighting looked perfect. And so he reflected enough light to basically be a spotlight himself in the picture.
Yeah, I saw something. It was funny. I was watching Mythbusters, and they do a whole moon landing episode, and it's a really good episode. But they did the same experiment. Like, they built a lunar lander to scale, and then they made one of the little fancy astronauts to scale, like going up the ladder. They actually made like the surface of the moon, like it was at like 7% reflectivity or whatever. There's actual words for this that I don't remember. And then they put like a big spotlight that was coming this way. They got a camera over like exactly where it would have been and took the same picture just on a smaller scale with like the same, like I said, the same kind of substance or material that makes up the moon. And it was pretty much the exact same picture, and there was only one light. Like, there was nothing fancy they did. It's just the way the light reflects off the lander, the suit itself, and the moon, the way it reflects back up.
Right.
It's very easy to explain as long as you're willing to listen to it. If you just want to think that it's something crazy, you're never going to believe anybody's word for it. That's what I'm saying. With a lot of these kind of myths that come out, they're just going to continuously come out because people just want to make it
right. And they're not going to look further into it because they found the answer that makes them feel special, is what it seems like, and they don't want to be proven wrong. No,
not at all. They don't want to, and it's just like, even when they hear something that kind of makes sense to them that would disprove them, it's like, nope, I'm right. You guys are dumb with your silly science, and
that's right,
or whatever the fuck they say.
You guys are physicists.
Yeah, you researchers, you are dumb.
Yeah, a bunch of sheep just listening to everybody else.
Yeah, and I heard another big one is the no stars in the sky behind it.
Yes, that is. Glad you brought that up.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest ones.
Yeah, I think so. And that's another one that's very simply explained. If it was daylight for you and you were filming a video or taking a picture, and then the sky was black, you turn your camera up to the sky and it's set for daylight, you're not going to see small light sources. It's an exposure setting. So if you turn your exposure high up enough during the daylight, it would look like everything else is entirely too bright. You would be able to see the stars then, but everything else would be drowned out in white.
Right.
So it's what they call exposure. So you just have to have your camera taken in the right amount of light to get a good picture, and that's what the cameras there were doing.
Right.
As they were set for daylight, so they look up in the black sky and they don't see the tiny stars, which it makes perfect sense. It works here on Earth. You can't take pictures of the stars with your phone. You try it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, even if you went out on the porch with you and your friend and you could take a picture of your friend and they would look illuminated, and then this night sky behind them would just be completely dark.
Right.
Just how it works.
Yeah. So that's what it was. They weren't concerned about getting pictures of the stars. They were concerned about watching the people on the surface of the Earth.
To me, again, at the same time, it's like, if that's one of your excuses, do you not think that people would have thought about that?
Right.
If they were trying to fake it and they wanted it to look pretty and special, like Hollywood-esque, they would have put some stars in the back, some gleaming, to make it look fancy. But nope.
Man, I heard one of the guy. This guy's a flat earther, and I'm assuming that he thinks the moon landing was fake as well. But there's a video of him. He's talking shit about the pictures that NASA puts up, and he's like, they're insulting our intelligence with this stuff. And he went on to say that They took a picture from space, and it was of the Earth. This picture, and he said, "So when I look up right now, the sky is blue. How come the background of the Earth is black? That doesn't make any sense." I don't see
what.
Yeah. So he was
talking.
He didn't understand why the sky is blue, basically.
Because like we have an atmosphere, and the moon doesn't.
Yeah. So the way that he put it was hilarious. He
like he's actually proven a point.
Yeah. It was like, no, I think he may have been talking about the sun. So like if you look at looking from the Earth, the background of the sun is blue, but this picture of it from space, the background is black. How does that make any sense? You know? And golly, look this guy up if you want to get a good laugh. His name is D Marble.
I can't. This is where I can't have conversations with these kind of people.
It's seriously like this guy deletes comments off of his videos and stuff. Only leaves the ones that support him.
Yeah, we do that too. We delete all the comments we don't get.
Man, it's bad, but it's that kind of stuff. It's like that's a very basic example of the types of misunderstandings that these people have.
It's something simple that can be explained, but they don't want to do the research in the right area to find out the answers.
Right. They just accept their initial observation and nothing further.
And then look up their sort of bias information to prove it, or get on the fake moon landing website and look up all the things they have to say. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's really a website. I just made that up.
But there are, we've only gotten into a few, but there are a lot of problems that people point out with the moon landing. And I'm not going to be able to bring up all of them, but I want to bring up a couple of novel ones that maybe you haven't heard of. Actually, first, let's bring up who filmed Neil Armstrong walking down the ladder if he was the first person.
Mm-hmm.
That also has a very simple explanation, and that's another thing that makes people think.
Yeah, I can understand that. Like that would make me pose a question. Maybe not to look for the fact that it was fake, but it's questionable.
Right.
I'll say that. So
the explanation is that there was a camera on one of the legs of the lunar lander that he flipped on before he walked out. That's the explanation that I saw of. I think it was a NASA employee or just an aerospace engineer. And of course, if you think the moon landing was fake, they can't be trusted.
That's right.
That sounds like a much more plausible explanation to me than the moon landing was fake.
Yeah, but they're all holding national secrets.
So let's see.
But that seems, that seems reasonable when you just put it that simply. Like, yeah, maybe NASA would have wanted to get a camera angle of the first person getting off their spaceship onto the moon, onto another heavenly body. Why wouldn't you want that camera angle? It doesn't just immediately say that it was just all made up. I don't know. Right. As simple as just not understanding.
Let's see. So there's a picture of the Earth taken from the moon, apparently on that mission, and it didn't have the right angle that it would have needed to be from the surface of the moon. I'm not an expert on this. Maybe I'm not explaining it well, but there's a picture. It's taken like the Earth. You can see the horizon of the Earth. And then it looks like the camera is floating above the surface of the moon.
Okay.
It's a famous picture. You can go look it up. And basically that's a problem that people see. And the explanation for that is that it wasn't taken from the surface. It was taken from an orbital satellite.
Gotcha. That would have been my first thought already.
Yeah.
Is that so? Do they attribute it to the moon landing pictures though? Do they say?
I think they do.
Oh. See, that would be misleading.
Yeah. Which I'm unsure about this. Do your own research.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
I'm just putting it out there for you to listen to.
Really, yeah. I'm trying to name off a bunch of the reasons that people think it was fake. I'm not an aerospace expert or whatever, so I'm not going to be able to convince you that the moon landing was real or fake. I'm just kind of reporting. Mm-hmm. And that's what we do. We're not. Neither of us are really experts on things. There are a couple of little areas that I know a lot about. Like, I'm pretty knowledgeable about electricity now and about biology.
Right, which has nothing to do with the moon landing.
Right, I have no fucking clue. I'm just reporting shit.
Yeah, right. Welcome to WC&D News.
PBS. I was gonna make up a funny. I don't know.
Yeah, I knew it was coming.
Public boys school. I don't fucking know, man. That might be what that actually stands for.
I have no idea.
Let's see. I have a bunch of things just kind of scribbled.
You got some more myths? The ones I had, of course, were like the camera. Like they took I can't remember exactly how it's worded, but they took a picture and in the reflection of like Neil Armstrong took a picture of Buzz and Buzz is right in front of him. Mm-hmm. But in Buzz's like reflective mask, you can't see Neil Armstrong with a camera or somebody. So they think somebody else with the camera took the picture.
Also very easily explained, as I'm sure you know,
Yep.
the cameras were strapped to their chests.
Yes, and it was like a body cam that got, so he didn't, and his hands are even like kind of around that part of his body during that picture. So it's like, nah, I don't see the camera. It's not him standing there with a fucking Polaroid up against his reflective lens that he can't move. So it has to be someone else or fake.
So I think the thing that is the most concerning or potentially convincing of a faked moon landing is that if you examine the lunar lander, there isn't dust or dirt or anything like that on the legs of the lander or on the feet of the lander. It looks clean, which is a little concerning for me. You would think there would have been a lot of dust coming up.
You know that, you remember, you know those little like kids toys? It's called like moon sand, and you can squeeze it, move it around. Maybe that's where it came from.
Right? Yeah.
It's just like there, and then it's all kind of just like bonded together, so it doesn't fly up like dust like we would think of.
Well, it flies up like dust when you look at them driving a little. They drive some sort of vehicle around on the surface, and the rear tires fling up dirt. Yeah, dust. I mean, it's really fine dust too. So there should have been a good amount of it. Yeah. I would like to hear an explanation for that.
Yeah, I haven't looked into that, but I would like to look into that.
That's an interesting one.
Here's some homework for you, boys and girls.
There you go.
Look up some dust stuff.
Let's see. There is no crater under the lunar lander.
I heard something about that, but it didn't make sense to me either way. Why would there be a crater?
Because they had to use some sort of rocket propulsion system to lower themselves. Right?
Okay, yeah, sure.
So the speculation is that it was actually lowered via a crane.
Oh, gotcha.
That's what they say.
Okay.
Which, again, something I feel like somebody was faking it would think of. Maybe I'm giving them too much credit.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe they were dumber in the 60s.
Right. And I think the last one I'm going to bring up, well, there's one more potentially that I'm going to bring up that is a problem, is that there's no exhaust flame when you watch the lunar lander take off. Yeah. And that is also easily explainable. Yeah. Because it was it wasn't a flame. There was no flame. And it's because nitrogen tetroxide and kerosene 50 are two chemicals that when mixed create a nice violent explosion or series of explosions. Yeah, and it's completely clear. Right. So
versus the difference when they take off from the space or the pad here in like Florida or Texas, wherever it went from. It's because that's actually nitrogen and kerosene, and it makes a big explosion with a lot of flame. And then the other one, like you said, when they were taken off, that doesn't make that.
Unsure why they wouldn't use the flame.
The only thing I could think that would be different is when you're on like the Earth's surface, you have to push up against our gravity. They had to take the whole thing up into space. So it was probably a lot harder. So they had to use some like stronger fuel maybe, versus just taking a lander off something with not a lot of gravity holding it down. Could have taken a lot less energy, I guess. Yeah, that would be my only just speculation without any research.
Maybe it's less weight too or something like that. I don't really know.
The gas itself, like the fuel itself. Right. Probably so.
Okay, I think I've touched on everything, but okay, so apparently there's no moisture on the moon, but footprints were left. Yep. So that's another problem that people see, which I don't really know the answer to. The answer I found online is that friction allows the particles to hold their shape.
Yeah, I saw that too. And that's a tough one. I'd have to look into that a little bit more.
You have to understand a little bit more about physics in space.
But also, if it was a moist thing, like if you stepped your foot into... I'm trying to just think this through. Man, I probably should have done that beforehand, but I'm just thinking, like, if you stepped your foot into like a wet puddle or something, you would leave a footprint, but if that stayed wet forever, it would continue to move around, and then there would be no footprint. But if you stepped on it and it dried and there's no moisture, I could see it staying there forever. I don't know.
I couldn't say, man.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just thinking it through.
Okay, so the only thing I did want to say before we sign off is that other people have been to the moon. They haven't put boots on the moon. There have been other missions to the moon by other space agencies, and they confirm that...
In other countries.
Yes, they confirm that the things that were supposed to be there based off the American missions to the moon are there. For example, the mirrors that they use to measure the distance and the movement of the moon. They shoot a laser at the specific point where the mirror is supposed to be, and lo and behold, a magical, powerful reflection comes right back. Isn't that funny?
That's crazy. I don't know how they did that with the whole dome over the earth.
Yeah, I would have no clue.
Probably got a bunch of flat earth people to explain it to them.
But so other people that have sent missions to the moon are Russia, Japan, China, the European Space Agency, and India. Yeah. So it's not just NASA telling us that we landed on the moon.
And I've heard something recently about China starting to build stuff on the moon.
Yeah, their goal is to have some sort of base on the moon.
First of all, if that happens, we will be in another space race. Well, I guarantee you, as soon as we hear that, we'll be back to the moon within a few years. Easy. And especially now that like SpaceX has already got a leg up. And I really want to know if they had a successful launch today, because after our space program had some tragedies here in the U.S., we stopped launching things out of the U.S. in like 2011. Now we have companies like SpaceX they're launching satellites and stuff. But today, actually, funny enough, I don't know the date today. It's like the 29th or something.
The 30th, I think.
Is it the 30th? Mm-hmm. Wow. So on May 30th today, they were supposed to launch two astronauts up to the International Space Station from wherever they are. I don't know if it's Florida or Texas, but and that hasn't happened since 2011. So I hope everything went well. My phone hasn't been blowing up with news saying that the ship blew up on the way there. So I'm hoping all good stuff, but I will look as soon as this is over, because it was supposed to happen a couple days ago and then had bad weather and got postponed. But it's something interesting. But anyways, my point was that, we already are stepping back into the right direction. And it took private enterprise, doing it rather than our government having to find some reason for it. Because they're always going to find, especially when you have people that don't understand why we do space exploration and you need people to vote you into office, it's always going to be like, well, why don't we spend our money on our military or things to keep us safe? Things down here, why do we care about space and exploration? So it's hard for the government or for the people in government to justify putting all that money towards something. So it was nice that someone came through with private enterprise. And I know Jeff Bezos, whatever, from Amazon, he actually... I haven't looked much into this, but I did see a picture and read an article on it yesterday. He's trying to drop shuttles I don't want to say this wrong, but they're attached to like a normal jumbo jet.
Yeah,
and
that's
they fly
been a thing for a long time.
And then it drops it,
that's
I guess.
That's been an idea for a while. So, because they get the initial lift out of the way with the jumbo jet and then let something else take off from it.
Gotcha. So anyways, he launched one a couple days ago and it failed. That was one of his first ones they tried to launch and it failed. Which is cool. Like Elon Musk reached out apparently and was like, it happened to us too, man. Like just keep going, basically, which is cool. I think for some reason, like why did it take so long for some company to come up to say, well, fuck it, if you guys aren't going to do it, then we'll do it.
I don't know. Maybe a company wasn't rich enough and had the resources
or just the balls to do it. Yeah, I want to spend all my money on building rockets and shooting them into space. That can't be expensive at all.
Right.
That and solar power. That's pretty funny though. I'm really excited to see what we come to in the future, and because I think it's starting to take off where people are starting to get that confidence and starting to get the opinion back that this is something that's necessary. Like we need to reach out and expand from where we are in our, maybe not our solar system, but reach out to different planets just to see what's out there. And it can help us with technology here on Earth. Like a lot of technology we have is from NASA and people trying to go into space. So I'm glad to see it going back in the other direction.
Yep.
11 years of nothingness, or 9 to 10 years of, I guess, people living in fear that we're going to kill more Americans, trying to send them out. But which is funny is like we've sent a ton of people up into space since then. It just hasn't been from America. They all go to Russia.
And they're concerned about us Never mind.
It's probably just an image.
I was just going to say that they're concerned about us killing Americans, sending them. Is that a legitimate fear? People are concerned about us killing Americans by sending them into space, even though they're volunteering to do it?
I don't think it's necessarily that, but on American soil, yeah. Because like after like the Challenger and a couple like the Apollo missions blew up, they were just like, all right, let's just stop.
Okay.
And so that's when like our American people started going over to Russia to get launched up to the International Space Station. Like we obviously have people at the ISS a lot. Like all year round, and they just go up from Russia.
Wow. So Americans are a bunch of sensitive Nancy's.
Apparently,
basically.
Yeah.
Wow.
A couple people died, like a school teacher on the Challenger, and they're like,
I'm sorry.
They're like, let's scrap this. Let's give it up forever.
You just know that it's a possibility.
Yeah, those astronauts knew. They prepared for it. They were willing to give up everything for it.
And while it's sad,
sure,
you can't use that as an excuse to stop launching people into space.
Right, but we still go to war every year.
That was one of the first things I was going to say is we send a bunch of people,
18-year-olds.
Yeah, who have they don't know who they are yet.
Right.
And we're sending them to fight the wars of that. A lot of these wars are I don't have to say it. I mean, like think about the Iraq War. And the war on terror, you know, it was like a manufactured fear type thing.
Yeah.
And it's
through
almost blatantly obvious
bullshit
for me that we went over there for the resources and the oil.
Right.
And we
to spread our democracy. Yeah.
And that's probably a very unpopular opinion. But I think that it has a lot more ground than we're going over there for their own good, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Really?
It's like they were reaching out for help or something, and we were the martyrs here.
Seriously, yeah. Team America World Police. They don't want us over there, a lot of them.
Yeah.
Maybe they do after we establish and can give them the things that they want.
I'm sure there are a lot of civilians that are like involved, like they can't even grow up normally because so many militias and bullshit are taking over in gangs, so we have to kind of go sort it out ourselves, I guess.
Right. I mean, this is turning into something that I don't want it to.
Yeah, either way
we'll have these discussions. Foreign policy is very complicated, I admit.
Right. But ringing it back in, it doesn't make sense that we would just, you know, if a couple people died and maybe we couldn't justify it financially while we just stopped doing it altogether from here. You know, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But
whatever. We'll talk about that some other time.
Yep.
So I think we're done with the moon landing talk.
Yeah, I think that was pretty good. You know, I think we hit a lot of the major points, and it's something that's been discussed since the 70s. Like, it's no new material for us to spout out to anybody or anything. I mean, if most people have heard of the conspiracy, and if not the conspiracy parts of it, then that it's actually, you know, we did go to the moon.
Right. So if you guys have any other quandaries for us,
queries,
please feel free to reach out, leave us a comment. If you enjoyed our discussion, like and subscribe once again. But if you have any serious quandaries that maybe an engineer might solve for you, you don't need to hit us up for that.
Oh, you can hit me up. I'm pretty smart about everything.
Yeah, because you're so math savvy.
Yes. I sit at home and do research 24/7, except for the times that I don't, and the times that I'm not home, which is most of the time. So, all right, moving along.
So we're going to play Super Fight.
Super Fight.
This is the game where we each get a character. Each of those characters get 2 attributes, and then we argue about who would win in a fight.
Yes. Ooh.
So let's do it.
Okay, I like this.
Reveal.
These are things I haven't had before. So, number 1, I am going to be a hockey player.
Okay.
Not too bad.
Marching band. A high school marching band.
Like the whole band.
I'm assuming.
That's like 50 people or more.
Plus weapons.
Okay. I'm going to be armed with a bacon-wrapped baseball bat.
What? Amazing.
I'm gonna
so it smells good.
Lure them around.
Right.
Like, look at the bat. Look at the bat. It's bacon. Yum.
Let me hit you in the face with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And it's gonna taste good and smell good.
I have a hostage.
I don't care about the hostage. Just go ahead and kill him.
Well, you might not care about him, but I can use him as like a distraction or like a shield. I can throw him at you.
No, I'll kill him.
Okay. I can tell you right now you're about to lose this.
Yeah, I know. Well, you got way more people.
I know.
And
you gave me these cards. You can't even blame this on me.
All right. And then I'm armed with a cattle prod.
Wow.
So I've got a bacon-wrapped baseball bat and a cattle. I can.
You could go in.
I can go in. Yeah.
But my high school band is a super genius.
Can just one of them be a super genius, and the rest are just mindless dum dums?
Regardless, you're gonna lose this.
So here's where I'm gonna go. Here's where I'm gonna start off. First of all, half of your people are probably sick. Because hear me out. Because we all know how gross marching band people are.
I was in the marching band, you shitbag.
So at least 50% of them have like HIV or STDs.
All the more reason they can kill you.
No, they're sick. They're dwindling down. Their immune systems are deteriorating.
They wouldn't be marching. You're making
barely
some
out there.
Serious assumptions.
Yeah, I have to.
So I might as well say
I'm way down
your
low
hockey
here.
player is heavily injured because he plays hockey. He's missing a bunch of teeth. He's got a broken leg.
He doesn't need teeth.
He's wearing skates on not ice.
Yeah, he's just running around in a parking lot with ice skates on.
That's right. And he's got all those pads on, which will slow him down and make him really hot.
But, I mean, I'm imagining this. I mean, high school little fairies blowing on their clarinets
giant
and shit.
Metal things. Plus, at least one super genius to coordinate
small them. Little girls.
I would take
he's gonna
just
whack
the drum line over your hockey player. If the drum line alone was fighting your hockey player.
If they have to keep all their instruments, like the guy with the beep 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 boom, all those drums.
I don't think that's a requirement.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say you need to hold on to your hockey stick.
Well, I can't.
Okay.
Well, maybe I could. Maybe he's got big hands. I don't know. But if they can take their gear off, then they're not even a marching man anymore.
Yeah, they are. They're still the same people. That's like saying, like, if I was out there playing baseball and I took my helmet off, I'm no longer a baseball player. Or even if I took my uniform off, I'm still a baseball player.
So, yeah, okay, I'll give you that. But I'm just thinking of the kind of people that are in marching bands. Number
you're
one,
being very judgmental right now.
I have to be. It's the point of the game. Number one, they're probably all non-aggressive. Not all of them. The majority of them are probably very non-aggressive.
You weren't in the same marching band.
The other 50 to... We actually were in band game together.
I know.
Shit, what was I saying? Oh, non-aggressive. The other part of them are just gonna cry because they don't like confrontation. All they want to do is blow their fairy horns. You know what I mean? So I think they're not gonna fight my hockey player, who is an aggressive, brutish guy that doesn't mind getting tormented, and his teeth knocked out. He's just a crazy lunatic out there with a cattle prod and a baseball bat, just fucking whacking them off one by one.
Whacking them off.
Your whole marching band is gonna get whacked off.
So what you're saying is a horde of zombies with marching band equipment couldn't kill a hockey player.
Wouldn't say a horde of zombies because they're aggressive. They want to eat. They're
rabid
super
at genius at the helm. He's gonna coordinate.
What is a super genius gonna do?
To throw at you to distract you.
I don't care about that. Just one little fuck.
I don't know exactly
with
what a super genius would do. I'm not a super genius.
He wouldn't help in this situation.
Yes, it would.
No, I don't think so.
It's one person versus 100 at least. You're gonna. There's no argument to be had here.
If I can funnel them into like a small
if
little
you
hallway,
can funnel them, a super genius would not let them follow you into the small little hallway, your hypothetical hallway.
But your super genius is still like a little freshman that's like 120 pounds.
It doesn't matter.
Just one whack with a baseball bat. I'll just dangle some bacon in front of him.
With your bacon baseball bat.
Yeah. What the fuck does that mean?
I have no idea.
Why couldn't they just give me a baseball bat?
It had to be bacon wrapped.
We're
in America, aren't we?
One fucking hit and all the bacon's just gonna slide off.
That's true.
It's gonna be.
Or you could sit there and eat the bacon as fuel.
So it'll sustain me.
That's right.
While I'm whacking off a whole marching band.
That's right.
So let me be realistic for 1 second.
You're not gonna be realistic, are you?
I will be realistic.
Okay.
I would say that my hockey player could take out the woodwinds at least.
I can give you that.
I would take out the woodwinds.
I can give you that.
Yeah, because they're all probably smaller ladies. More than likely, there may be a few gentlemen in there, but not normal hockey player type gentlemen. So I could take out the woodwinds. The brass section.
You would have trouble with the saxophones.
Yeah, the brass section is where things would start getting a little hefty.
Yeah, you'd have to deal with trombones raining down on you.
Tuba players.
Yeah, that would be tough. And then the
I hope they're fat though.
The drum line.
Aren't they kind of coordinated with their instruments? Like
pretty, yeah. You would have some trouble.
My hockey player's in shape though, so he could run around them for a while.
Well, I'm not saying that he wouldn't take out some of my guys. I'm saying that it's 100 people backed by a super genius with makeshift weapons.
Yeah, they really don't have great weapons though.
It's almost as good as a cattle prod.
Hell no.
Yeah.
What would they have that would be as good as a cattle prod?
Not as good. They're metal, and some of them are very long.
A clarinet's like the longest thing.
Like a cattle prod
if you hit
versus
anything,
just the slide of the trombone isn't like that much of a mismatch.
But could you damage somebody with the slide of a trombone?
Fuck yeah, I could.
No, I don't
Smack
think
the
so.
shit out of them. Hell yeah,
I'm gonna have pads on, and it's gonna break and bend after one hit.
Well, you're gonna have a bunch of people hitting you with shit.
Stab you in the neck.
There's no getting around a super genius. If they weren't backed by a super genius, you would have a lot better argument.
I don't see what the super genius can do though.
Coordinate them, dude.
How's he gonna do it?
He's a super genius. He's gonna have all these techs that give them these microphones, and he's like a general.
So he set this up. He knew this was gonna happen. This isn't some impromptu battle.
I wouldn't think
where there's just one decently.
How else would a super genius matter?
So it doesn't matter. That's what I'm getting at. Some guy with like what is? I wanted to say Lou Gehrig's, but what is the
Asperger's?
Yeah, like
Lou Gehrig's disease. Fuck.
There's one guy with Asperger's in the corner over there just like doing math problems
playing
or
a
some
video
shit.
game.
Yeah. And while the rest of them are just getting slaughtered by cattle prods.
I don't think it would work that way. I don't see what he could do. A super genius would be smart enough to be the last person to be dominated. Well, yeah, he's not going to be doing the fighting.
He'd be like, all right, you go. You're big enough. You go.
If he had any time to plan at all, you're screwed. 5 minutes and a megaphone.
Yeah, but think that's almost like you in a class of kindergartners. How hard is it to execute a plan?
It's not me in a class of kindergartners.
It would be
it's
technically
a full
super
high school
genius
marching
versus
band
a high school
with
marching
makeshift
band,
weapons and a super genius behind them.
And
a hostage.
I think once they see me whacking people off, they're all gonna just like lose their minds and run in different directions.
You're just assuming way too much.
There's gonna be no order here.
I don't have to assume
discipline.
anything when I say that it's 100 versus 1.
It's 100 what though?
100 high school kids with potentially makeshift weapons. There's lots of metal around.
Lots of drumsticks and mallets. I told you. Okay.
I'm not saying that it would be that easy. I am saying that you're not gonna win.
I don't think my guy could get through all 100 people. He would be tired, and there's just nobody that could kill him.
And he would get hit at some point, and get hit a lot.
He would definitely be able to take out a good portion. I'd say 30 to 40% of your people.
Nah.
30 to 40 people on pure adrenaline. I could spin around in circles whacking people for like an hour straight.
15 to 20 people. With a super genius at the helm, he would be able to convince them to just rush him. Max 10 to 15 people. You would get in a couple of hits and then get drowned. That was really it.
I don't know. I just don't think so. I think my guy is good at maneuvering. He's agile. He's an athlete.
But
he could bounce around and he could run.
If you're surrounded and they just converge on you, what can you do? Even the best fighter in the world wouldn't do anything.
He could like run out
unless he had a samurai sword or some crazy shit.
Ran out through the woods or something and got them all funneled into little.
See, I just said he was surrounded.
He can't be surrounded.
Yes, he can.
Try to surround
just as easily as he can be in a fucking random corridor, trying to funnel them all into one area.
I need something to help me out.
300 here.
You're right. If it's in the middle of an open parking lot, it would be tough. But I don't think your people would be coordinated. I don't think you're thinking that they would just do it because the guy says that's their best chance. I don't think that they're gonna do it. But these aren't soldiers here. I know, but they're marching band kids. They're not gonna run head first with a drumstick in their hand to some guy that's have fucking pads and a cattle prod and a baseball, like just whacking people off one by one. They're not just gonna run towards it. The
prerequisite of this is that they're fighting. It's not that they're running away. The prerequisite is that there's a fight happening.
Yeah, but you still have to take in the mentality of what a marching band would be like. These aren't soldiers. If it's just one soldier versus the next, then that's different. But even if you if someone came up to them, the whole thing was like, oh, by the way, in 5 minutes, you all have to fight this bitch over here. Like, all of you versus him. There's still going to be a big majority of your people that won't move or won't do anything. Even if this guy is like, this is your best chance to survive.
You're just assuming that most of my people... You're doing that just to give yourself a chance. You're assuming that most of my people...
Isn't that the point of this game?
They all are told, let's say, like, what other reason would they have to fight other than getting a reward? If they have a super genius or whatever... What?
What other reason would they have to fight?
Yeah. If they could just run away, there wouldn't be a fight.
Right.
There would have to be a reason.
I'm not saying they would run away. I'm just saying they wouldn't act very coordinated. I think like some of them may rush, some of them may like step back for a minute.
That's what I'm saying is that they have somebody to coordinate them, and the people, even if there was 40 of them and they were coordinated and they just rushed you, you wouldn't stand a chance.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. I don't think they would stick to their coordinating. Like, even if they knew it was their best chance. I think they would. I think a lot of them would wimp out.
I don't know.
And then that would be what picks them apart. And that's why I could get through 30 or 40 of them. If they were all blazing 300 Spartans or something, and they said, crash on this person at once, I'm not going to have a chance. But these fairies, I could
seriously, even our high school drum line, which was like 6 people, if we all rushed him at the same time, maybe threw our drums first and rushed him with drumsticks, and he would lose.
He would lose. but I gotta give myself something here. No, I'm gonna take out 30 people. No, and I won't take a person less. Okay, you got it.
You could take out 30 people if they were coming at you, maybe 1 or 2 at a time. If it was a group of 10 or more, you're screwed.
Yeah, that's probably true. They'd have to really surround me, though, and I feel like that would be harder than you think. If someone was aware and kind of kept backing up and just kept them coming at them in a certain pattern, you could take out... If you're smart enough...
Your guy's a hockey player, not a professional fighter.
Yeah.
And he has a baseball bat and a cattle prod. It's not like he's armed to the teeth here.
Yeah, but he would be willing to risk every part of his body to go down.
I'm not saying
I'm not
saying he wouldn't.
One of those flute players is going to get whacked on the arm one time and go and just fall over.
Maybe.
So, maybe I wouldn't kill 30, but I would down 30 people.
You would put up a fight.
Yeah, it would be.
But the point is, the reason that we're arguing right now is because in the end, you would lose.
That's the reason we're arguing is because it's the point of the game.
Well, the reason I'm arguing with you is because you would lose.
I would probably lose. I don't see any way around that. You got a marching band. You have a band.
Yeah, more than it's.
That's
unless
a lot
you
of
had
people.
Like a minigun. Or
these take 2 charter buses of people. To carry
all
around.
With lots of metal and shit, like
cases, hard cases.
Yeah,
it would be tough, but I'll take out a good many. No,
okay. Tell us what you think, guys. Let us know if you think the hockey player could take out 10 or more. If
10 or more, you guys got to give me that.
Well, it depends on the manner in which it happens.
I don't know. I think he could do it. I think he could take out a decent amount of people. I'd be shanking the fuck out of people with that cattle prod.
Shanking people with a cattle prod.
Hell yeah. Just one pop, one step.
Nobody even says it's hot. It might just
doesn't have to be hot, but cattle. Oh, they're not pokey, are they?
No.
Damn it. I'm thinking like the thing that stokes a fire.
Maybe modern cattle. No.
Well, cattle prod is not like a branding tool.
Prods are like a what's the thing I'm thinking about?
Like an electric shock thing?
Yeah. Why can't I think of a taser? I don't know why I couldn't fucking think about it.
Maybe it is kind of like a taser.
Maybe to like keep them in line.
Yeah.
But even still,
that would. I'm sticking to 30 people minimum.
Minimum? No way.
Minimum 30 people.
Think about how many people 30 is. 30 fucking people versus one guy.
For your life, you could do some damage. Could you imagine if this guy was on PCP?
But they're all hyped on this shit too. If they're running at him like a fucking army to fight him, it's not like they're all just cowards.
I think they're all mainly cowards. They're all wondering what's on their test the next day or some shit. I don't know.
This guy is just a hockey player too. I think you're giving him way too much credit. You're treating him like he's a Navy SEAL.
He is a brutish animal. Who else would play hockey?
I don't know.
You don't have people skipping
There are pretty
around
boys playing hockey.
I don't think so.
Yes,
not any that I've seen. They're all like, they look like they just came out of like a stint out in the woods for 6 months or something, and that someone just put a helmet on them.
All right, this has gone on too long.
This has. It's never ending.
Guys, thank you for sticking with us for so long. We do appreciate it. Please like and subscribe if you have enjoyed this. This is Cause and Defect, the show for serious conversations with not so serious people.
Stay tuned.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Oh, wait. We're not going to post next week because we are going on a hike.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Wow.
I don't know who's going to get to that. We probably should have said this at the beginning.
Probably so. But if you're listening this far, we're not going to post next week.
We'll make a clip out of it.
And we'll do something on Instagram. So thank you guys.
Yep, thanks. For all the people that are standing by waiting for our episode to drop.
I have to shit.